Max Verstappen is on his way to having completed 2 races this weekend, and if that sounds insane, it's because it is. The 2 races I'm referring to are the Imola Grand Prix in his Red Bull F1 car and the 24 hours of the Nürburgring in a GT3 car. And if you're wondering where does he find the time for a 24-hour race and a Formula 1 race weekend, well, it's in between quali and the race. We're talking about the master of finding time here. Before we get started, if I could take a super quick minute and ask you, all your lovely faces, if you could leave a like and a comment on this video, as it's a free and easy way to support the channel by engaging with the content so other racers like yourself can find this content and hopefully enjoy it too. And if you like what you see, why not subscribe? I'd love to keep you all around. Now, back to it. Now I know what you're thinking, Jack. The Nürburgring is in Germany and the Grand Prix weekend is taking place in Italy. Is the race he's doing getting to and from the track? Well, not quite. This is where it gets interesting. As most of us know, Max Verstappen is a huge sim racer. Shocker. That's right, when he's not racing Formula 1 on the track in his free time, he has a passion for motorsport simulation, and it's worth mentioning if anyone would be a high-level ambassador for the sport of sim racing in the future, it's him, as he's currently trying to bring his sim racing team, Team Redline, into the world of real-life GT3 racing, as well as that he recognises that although he may be naturally probably the fastest in the world on track in the real world, there is some serious competition in the sim world that he continuously likes to test himself against and just keep raising the bar. But back to the whole 2 races thing. The race other than the Formula 1 race he's doing is the virtual 24 hours of the Nürburgring special event, which is held on iRacing. And although this is virtual, when it comes to sim racing, cementing your name as a pro class 24-hour winner of the Nürburgring is a must have for sim racers all over the world. But more importantly, Max. To understand better how he completed this feat, we need to understand how the 24-hour race format works, and more importantly, how it works on iRacing. So firstly, there's the training, which is grueling and can be up to 3 weeks before, perfecting the car setup, training, working with almost real engineers to set up this virtual car, and running 3 full-length races before the race weekend. It was mentioned on his team's livestream that they did a full race on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday leading up to the race. So with practice done, out of the way, we get onto the rules. More importantly, the fair share rule. There's also logistics, which Max nailed in perfect F1 champion fashion. He got a motorhome just for his simulator. And he will be bringing his simulator around with him for all the European section of the calendar, so that's checked off the list, I guess. Sorted. But the one thing Max would have to satisfy, and also the most important to be able to run the Nürburgring 24 hours with his team, and in this case is 4 other teammates he runs with, and if you've made it this far thinking he's actually going to do the whole 24-hour race on his own, I love you, you're loved, you need to be protected at all costs. But as cool as that would be, no, it's broken into stints. And a stint is basically running a full tank from full to empty. Max usually does 2 or 3 stints at a time, amply referred to as double or triple stinting. But back to the important rule, the golden rule of endurance racing on iRacing, which is called the fair share rule. Basically, this rule is so that everyone entered into the endurance race has a fair share of racing. Not to get into it too much, but the fair share rule exists to ensure all members of a team drive a substantial amount of time in a race, and no members are allowed to field teams in which, for example, one user does 90% of the driving. So in this case, a fair share is calculated as 1/4 of an equal share of the race distance. An equal share is calculated simply by dividing the number of laps by the number of drivers on a team and then rounding down. So for this race I have it calculated, but I could be wrong, but not by a lot. About 175 laps at 8 minutes and 11 seconds a lap roughly, but lap time is irrelevant here, that's just to give you scale. So we take 175 divided by the number of drivers on the team, which in this case is 4, and then we get 43.75. For this is the equal share. So the fair share that each driver must complete is 1/4 of this number. So we take 43.75, multiply it by 0.25, and we get 10.93 or 11 laps. Max would have comfortably completed this by the end of his second stint, as each stint is about 6 full laps. So by then the rule would have been satisfied, and that's it. He done a large stint a few hours after qualifying pole, then jumped in early in the morning European time to support his team and throw more valuable seconds between him and his team's competition, and as of making this video, Team Redline is well on their way to winning the 24 hours of the Nürburgring. And to end on a funny note, the race will be over at about 1:48 PM GMT. and the Grand Prix will start at 2 p.m. GMT, which personally I think is just mad. He's a boss. He's probably going to have his race engineer GP let him know if his team won the 24-hour race as he's sitting in the car in the garage, or God forbid, even gridding up, which is just mad. Chap's a legend, can't deny it. If you want to check out a lap of Max bombing it on his first lap around the track during the endurance race, check out this video on screen now, and like always, thanks very much for watching, guys. Happy hunting.